mistake of saying, everyone makes the mistake of saying, these are the best athletes in the world. And first of all, you got to define, what, an athlete is, athleticism is, because there's some things are quantifiable, some things are not. Is an athlete someone that just has the things that makes them, successful at their sport? Is it someone who's well-rounded? There's all these things, there's a lot of different ways to define it. But like, in any sport, there's acceleration, any field or court sport, right? So, there's not a lot of, we're not, doing rocket science there. There's linear acceleration, deceleration, lateral, and, we move forward, backwards, side to side, and angles. and you can't do that if you can't change levels. And if you can't change levels, that means you probably can't squat. And so my point to all that is that, like, got too many guys that don't have a good foundation for movement, but they can score. They can play basketball, they can play football, they can do whatever, but they don't have a good foundation for movement. So now we run into the health issue. Now we run into
injuries.
What makes these guys special is great. They have it inherently. But then at what point, and that point almost always comes, does, their specialness, kind of hit a point of diminishing returns, and the compromise they make in movement to be special, starts to hinder them, so it's like, there's a lot of discussion in our industry about, well, do you change guys? Do you not, or whatever? And, and I'm not going to plant a flag one way or the other. I think it's a case by case situation. If a guy can't stay healthy and can't stay on the field or on the court, then you obviously have to have a bigger intervention. But if a guy or girl can, then, let them ride and try to make it a little bit better. But, for example, if you got a guy coming off of a screen, like a pin down, and they have to run on a curve, they got to catch, plant their feet 1-2, get vertical, into their jump shot. Well, if you can't lower your center of gravity, you're not going to handle that momentum well. If you can't do that, then you're going to slow down with more steps. Now that the separation you just gained from sprinting uphill and maybe even getting a screen is gone, because the defender's been able to catch up by the time you take your 4 pitter-patter steps to get under, your feet underneath you and into your jump shot. So it doesn't matter that you can shoot 44% from the 3-point line. You can't maintain that separation and get vertical in your shot. So it's like, so again, now we're back to, can you change levels and then start building the ability to handle momentum in multiple directions off of that? But it comes back to just basic movement. And so we find ourselves teaching push-ups and body weight split squats and stuff like that, way more than we are doing anything else that's cool, or sexy or whatever, so like, to all this long-winded way to get back to you, CJ, and saying, like, the work that's being done, like, that makes me, gives me some joy just for our industry. Because I started in a 2-car garage. Like, I worked with 8-year-olds and 6-year-olds on up, and, high school and college, and now pro for the last, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years, whatever. But, like, I appreciate so much the work that needs to be done, at the younger ages. And so, and how that now being on the other end of that, I appreciate it even more, because when it's not done, my job gets a lot harder. So,
let me ask you this. Rufus and I have gotten in some real deep conversations simply about coordination, because, I've gone back to I'm in the middle school right now.
Yep.
And one of the things that my period lengthened, it was 30 minutes, now it's 50 minutes. So I'm doing some movement at the very beginning of it and really trying to teach them how to move.
Yep.
But then I even go back to just simple coordination. And I mean, I got kids that can't jump rope. Heck, they can't skip. And they're in the 7th grade. I'm just like, what do you do? How'd you get here?
Teach them.
Oh, CJ, tell everybody who you're working, what age group you're working with.
I'm working with basically 12 to 14-year-olds.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that was a question more than like open-ended comment, but like, I mean, the reality is you gotta, if I was supposed to start that stuff at age 7 or whatever the age is, based on the, the critical periods of development or sensitive windows, whatever you want to call it, and you get them at 13 and they haven't developed some of those skills yet, like, you got to start, because every year that they move forward without developing these fundamental things that should have been started when they were young kids, their ceiling lowers for athleticism. And so, you know, you got to start pouring into them right away. And like, to be honest with you, CJ, like that's, I don't know, I mean, not that you're asking or anything like that, but that's the right thing to do. Like, you know, you got to start, you know, asking yourself, okay, like, how can I get the most bang for my buck? And like, while those aren't maybe, this will feed into our conversation, like learning to skip and jump rope may not be necessarily like output based, you know, training and exciting, you know, and everything like that. But like, man, it's fundamental. And, you know, rhythm and timing and coordination and, you know, the ability to punch, you know, and push versus pull, like the knee up. Like you see the guys skip all the time, right? When they, you know, they're lifting the knee up and they're hunching, you know, with their falling forward with their trunk or collapsing with their trunk versus being able to push into the ground. So if I'm lifting away from the ground and I'm losing my stability in my trunk, like how much force am I going to be able to put into the ground? You know, so now we're talking about, you know, insufficiencies and acceleration and the ability to get, you know, vertical and ability to, you know, finish off of one leg or decelerate in a lunge stance to get into a jump shot or a Euro, if we're talking basketball or any, you know,
Sure.
pick a movement, pick a sport, you know, so, so like we can extrapolate this out into some really stuff. And then if you're talking about, you know, phases or building blocks, you know, things from simplicity to complexity or GPP to SPP, however you want to, you know, frame this or, you know, put together, it's like, okay, so, you know, I'm supposed to do, you know, like a cycle jump or something like that, or like, you know, a reverse lunge, you know, to knee drive where I, you know, explode up or anything like that, or a lunge jump. It's like, yeah, but I couldn't skip. You know, I couldn't push, you know, into the ground. I couldn't separate my two sides to achieve the desired position. And I couldn't maintain, you know, core stability, trunk stability, proximal stability, whatever you want to say. You know, I didn't have, you know, good pressure or stiffness in my trunk so that my extremities can demonstrate force. Like, you know, just on a little skip, A skip, B, you know, all that stuff like that, you can start to derive all these things that are going on that like, man, down the road, we might have a problem with some of these things. And so like, why does a kid, you know, if that's the case, like, why does he, you know, go to put his foot on the ground and it's just, you know, it's on the ground just a little bit longer than it probably should be, you know? And so like, well, because it's going to take you longer to decelerate. You have a bad strategy for applying force into the ground. And that's all demonstrated in an A skip.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a mini tangent on A skipping, but it's but I wouldn't stop, you know, and honestly, like, you know, I don't know what you're doing, but like, you know, barefoot, explore, like all these things on. I'm not necessarily like, you know, in a camp of this or that, but like if we're talking about coordination and trying to feed, you know, into the system, like might as well use, you know, the sensory, you know, system as well. And I don't know what your ability is to do some of that. But if you want feedback, that's another great resource to get feedback from your environment, you know, is the feel, you know, from the bottom of the foot. So, anyways.
No, you hit it all, because to me, and what I really should say pounded, but just kept on talking about with the kids was applying force into the ground. You know, whether we're cleaning, whether we're squatting, whether we're skipping, we've got to put force into the ground to get force out of the ground.
Yep.
You know,
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. But what I found with these kids was I like to do walking lunges in a warm up, forward and backward. Well, what I realized was they couldn't do that. So then I went back to, well, we'll just try split squats. Yeah, couldn't even do that. Or first just do regular lunge. Then it was split squat. Nope, can't even do that. So we just got in a split squat stance and did isometrics for a while to where we could handle the balance, handle the coordination.
Yep.
You know, it was, it's been a really great learning experience for me this year.
For sure. I mean, if you had a bear crawl, you'd see the same thing you saw when you were having them lunge.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a reorientation of that pattern, right? You know, if you know, take somebody lunging and put them face down, you know, belly down on the ground, now they're bear crawling. And that's going to look the exact same. You're going to see hips bouncing up and down. You're going to see them side to side, you know, kind of kicking out of the box. You know, we talk a lot about moving in a phone booth, which is becoming an outdated reference. You know, Coach Hartwig, I don't even know if you've even seen a phone booth, you know, before, but it's
this is true.
I got a picture. I got a picture of one I had to bring into the kids one day when I used that.
It's going to be in a museum somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, but it's so, you don't hit the sides of the phone booth. So it's, it's funny. One of my favorite things and I promise we'll get on topic here in a minute, but one of my favorite things in this industry when you're watching just people move and having shop talk and is just connecting the dots of like, oh shoot, this, if applied here is this, and this is this, and this is the same thing here and the same thing there. And it's like, next thing you know, you start to see the coherence from something basic as a bear crawl to, the ability to A-skip, to the ability to accelerate, to the ability to finish, on a layup. It's like, that's the same pattern from beginning to end, just different context, different speeds, different force, demands and stuff like that. But it's like, you can start to draw a lot of conclusions and see the coherence from the beginning to the end and start to make some predictions about, coach comes to you and you're like, man, Billy just doesn't really finish well, when he goes off one leg. And it's like, well, you also can't split squat, lunge, bear crawl, or A-skip. So we're working on it. It's like,
Hey, Derek, feel free to jump in here on this if you want. I don't want you to feel left out, buddy.
Go ahead.
I say I was gonna try. I just don't know if it's gonna echo for you guys or cut out or what.
I think it's good when you talk. When you're done talking, hit mute. Hit mute.
Roger that.
Yep.
But I don't have a formal presentation, but technology is something that like I'm really, I don't know about passionate, but like, I do have some strong opinions on and in our industry. And, I kind of will first start with two things. Like one, I think technology is benefiting us ultimately, but it's also moving at a faster pace than our understanding is, just industry wise. That's just my 2 cents. Like I can be, I'm always open to be proven wrong. But generally speaking, like you've got, the Matt Jordans of the world and, some of these, elite people that are kind of, leading us through this and teaching us. But, the rest of us are, still trying to figure it out in all while, the industry is getting more technologically advanced. And these things all cost money. And so, and when you spend money or commit money to something, you have to have it has to have an anchor or like a pillar. It has to be a pillar in your program, or else, you're not getting your money's worth. And so, that's a big decision to make, and you kind of have to have it figured out, do it. So that's kind of my first thought about technology in our industry is that, it's phenomenal. I love it. And I don't think that's a backhanded compliment, but our industry needs to catch up to it. The science of it. So that's one. My second one is that I'm a big fundamentals person. And so like I'll go back to super training regularly, or I'll read, I've got these, basic books about biomechanics or physics or, whatever. I'll reread the same, kind of types of research articles, whatever, not all the time, but sometimes. And it's just because I just appreciate the fundamentals so much because if you own those or know those, then working your way through any science, through any pieces of technology you get gets a little bit easier. And because no matter whether you're working with a Gymaware or, Hawkins force plate or, like a motion capture camera or whatever, like you still need to understand time and force application over time, vectors and movement strategies that go into that. So, so that being said, I do use force plates regularly, and we use GPS chips, is part of our load monitoring. And if I didn't say this before, I know it's been recorded. My name is obviously Ty Terrell, and I am I've got a really pretty dress of a title. It is the Senior Director of Athletic Performance for the Washington Wizards, Washington Mystics, that's the WNBA, and the Capital City Go-Go, that's the G League affiliate for our NBA team. So,
sorry about that. I was going to introduce you, and then CJ started talking. I just let
no, it's how it works sometimes. But no, it's a fancy title. All it is a pretty dress on the same guy. And So that's kind of, well, it's not kind of, that is where I am now. Before that, I was a string coach with the Atlanta Hawks for 4 years, and down in CJ's neck of the woods there. That's how I know Norcross and all that. And then before that, I was in a private facility in Indianapolis called IFAST, Indianapolis Fitness and Sports Training, with Mike Robertson and Bill Hartman, and worked with the Indy 11, which is like a lower level professional soccer team, for a couple of years, and just did camps around the country and just kind of grabbed on to whatever I could. So that's my background professionally. Before that, even, I guess we go way back, I worked with Lee Taft, and we had our own little spot, and then I worked out of a YMCA. We worked out of a garage before that. So I feel like I've kind of seen the gamut of our industry, from private to team, from young kids like 6 to 8 year olds on up to geriatrics in the private sector, on to pro athletes, from all kinds of different sports. And so I'm grateful and appreciative of my background, because it's given me a wide range of experiences and perspective on things, and which always helps kind of process things quicker, or connects it out sometimes faster, and say, oh, I've seen that before. And so I appreciate that. So that's where I'm from. So right now I'm in the NBA with the Washington Wizards and our other affiliate teams. And when you work for a pro sports team, there's a lot of money and resources. And so we have the ability to have a lot of toys, and I purposefully keep it simple. We use force plates, and we use GPS data primarily. We use other pieces of technology, but on a regular basis, I would say those are the two pieces that we use the most. Gymaware is integrated into our training in two places. It is when we kind of want a competitive in a moment. We choose exercises that everybody's qualified to do. So I mean, everybody jumps, and regardless of what you think about the technique, like, everybody still jumps when they play their sport. So it's a great place to have a little competition if you're trying to get a particular training stimulus. But once people are qualified to do particular lifts, and we need a specific target, we use the Gymaware for that as well. And I'll give you an example. Like, if we're talking since we're talking technology and all that stuff, like, you start talking about profiling. I think a Gymaware is a great tool to get like a force velocity or load velocity profile. But then you have to look at depending on what athletes, if you're in high school, you could train all the sports, right? Like, you may be responsible for all the sports. So, field and court sport athletes mostly are going to skew towards or you're going to want them to skew more towards a faster load velocity or force velocity profile, and vice versa for sports that require more brute strength, isometric, or slow grinding muscle contractions, like wrestling, maybe lineman play, maybe even some throwers or whatever, and so you can start targeting very specific strength zones. So example for our guys, like, I rarely go slower than accelerative strength. And so I'm going to talk like you don't know, but it's you have absolute strength, accelerative strength, moving slow to fast here, heavy to light, absolute strength, accelerative strength. Then we get into power, which is strength, speed. The faster side of power is speed, strength, and then on from there, we get faster. And so, typically, even to get guys stronger, in basketball, a lot of times, accelerative strength and strength speed is enough. And if you need a greater emphasis on that, obviously spend more time there and get more volume. But I try not to take our guys any further than what I would call left. If you're looking at force velocity curve, or any slower than that, one, because it's just not what the sport calls of them. I don't want to slow their force velocity characteristics down. What makes them great basketball players is the fact that they're very fast. They're very high velocity athletes. So that's kind of where that fits in for us. And I can ramble all day, so you guys just stop me if you have a question there. And that's, there's a lot of ways to use that. There's, you could test progress. Could be, I think Gymaware is a great tool to have that doesn't cost a ton of money. The dashboard is phenomenal, but it's also pretty it's pretty, it's a pretty big, dashboard. And so you can kind of get lost in it, but, just, keep it simple and you'll be good. But you can even do, if you're, even do like counter movement jumps, like body weight weighted, and then keep increasing the weight if you want to get a profile that way. It's really easy to do on a Gymaware. But other than that, we basically just use, again, yeah, I did. Yeah, Gymaware. And so, even from that, like the force plates are and connects on is the easiest place to do that right there. And so we're going to give a little surprise guest here. Okay. And so it's my little man. And so there's that. Force plates we test every game day. And, we're not just, it's not just about jump height and power and stuff like that for us. It's more about the qualitative aspects of the force time curve. So we look at time oriented metrics like reactive strength index and time to, completion of the lift or the jump to kind of look for fatigue. Obviously if you're tired, you're going to do things a little bit slower. The neuromuscular fatigue aspect is not going to allow you to fire as quick as you normally would. Over time, we're tracking the mechanistic qualities like the ability to load in what your eccentric force, kind of side looks like, how quickly you can put on the brakes, how much force you have developed at the turnaround, because that's going to tell you the quality of your loading phase or your eccentric phase. And then, what the concentric phase looks like. So how much output or impulse you have there. And so if you have a great eccentric phase, well, let's say you have let's say you have a low counter movement jump and your eccentric, your force is zero, your eccentric phase, like force production is terrific. Well, that probably means you need more concentric output. The guys that I deal with have terrific natural force output, concentric force output, but don't load very well, so they're basically just not stretching the rubber band, to use an old stretch shortening cycle, reference. It's just purely concentric. So they're a lot of them are just doing basically a squat jump, just because they have no ability to load. And so that's a very mechanically taxing, inefficient way to produce force. You're not taking advantage of the body's kind of natural mechanisms to get like free energy, or efficient, energy, force production. So, that's, one way we use or multiple ways we use the force plates. Actually, we use them for return to plays. I find them extremely useful. Again, I'm not necessarily I don't work for anybody, but I do think like Hawken plates are really affordable relative to other force plates. I think their customer service gets you, off the ground really well. And, I think even using a piece of technology like that at just a level, like a really base level is extremely valuable and can be, but the shape of the curve is something that I'm, really interested in and looking at. Obviously you can look at asymmetries and so forth. So, the GPS stuff, you need to know, and you could probably do the GPS stuff, without, fancy radars or whatever, but basically you need to know what the game is going to ask of you. And so, if I'm a 2 guard, I'm probably sprinting or 3, I'm sprinting corner to corner more than the other guys. Point guards are playing top of the key to top of the key, and bigs are sprinting rim to rim. Wings are doing a lot of stopping and starting, curvilinear running. So you're going to see them accumulate higher loads in game than you will see the point guards or centers traditionally, typically. And so that needs to be reflected in your conditioning or your preparation, for these athletes. So the load monitoring, the GPS stuff is just, just a way to give you that objective piece. But if you look at the sport and you just look at what people are doing, okay, the 2 and the 3, the shooting guard and the small forward, they're sprinting corner to corner more. Oh, they're chasing guys a lot more. Okay. They look like they're probably doing more work or covering more ground. And they are, just based on the sport, the same thing, but I'm sure, I don't know this, but I'm sure safeties and linebackers in football, they have to go side to side and they got to go, forward and backwards. It's a lot of ground to cover. It's a big responsibility on a field. So those guys probably need a greater capacity than some others. Linemen need a different type of capacity. They're going to play every play and they're going to be pushing hard against people. So, it may not be so much cardiovascular for them as it is like muscular strength endurance, and with high levels of output in that. So just things like that, like you break down, like you just keep asking yourself, like, okay, like what's happening? And sometimes if you just remove like the sport itself from the thought process, sometimes that can clear things up and say, like, don't look at basketball as like the game and, the intricacies and strategies of the game, and to look at it as, what is that guy doing? What is that guy doing? What is she doing? What is she doing? And you'll be able to get the answers you need. And so like, we've got it to the point where like, I can tell you that like, in 20 minutes of play, like, or 25, however many minutes you want to say, like, I can tell you how many sprints a guy runs and at what speed, what average speed. So when we, get injured or we're building up in preseason, I can tell you, until he's able to accumulate 34 sprints at this speed, he's probably not ready to play 20 minutes if he's coming back from an injury. If he can do 25 sprints at this speed and he starts to drop off, he's probably not conditioned to play 20 minutes. So that's the data becomes incredibly helpful, but like, I don't know that you may not be exact, but like, I don't know that you got to be exact to be effective. And sometimes, and honestly, in a lot of ways, the court's just going to end up taking care of itself. You just got to get them, don't throw them in the deep end. But once the season starts and you're playing games and practicing, like, the game specificity conditioning should take care of itself to some degree, not all the way. So that was my big just blah on the table right there of the pieces of technology that we use on a regular basis and kind of how we, an intro to how we use them.
Hey, Ty, talk about how the force loading thing works.
Yeah, I will. But Derek had a question.
Yeah,
I actually use
Answer
Teambuilder right now. There. Relative to other options, like it's cheaper, and it, we just do programming, and if we need to program to guys off site, you can put a video on there. It can do some really cool things like track volume over time, et cetera, et cetera. But we just use it really simple right now, just to house our programs and videos for exercise videos for guys if we're programming remotely. And there's options out there there's systems that cost a lot more. There's systems that might be able to do, some calendar and scheduling things and things like that. But just specifically for us, we have other, resources that handle that. So we basically just need a place to house our programs so everyone can access them. And so that's what we use Teambuilder to answer your question there. But Rufus, what was your question?
Talk about the force velocity profile and how you find it, and what tests you use. Yeah,
I mean, I think there's it's not hard to research stuff and find out ways to get it. But like a traditional or true like load velocity or force velocity profile is you start zero weight, kind of movement jump even, and incrementally add weight. You can use like I've historically used a squat, and incrementally added weight, and then track with Gymaware the movement velocity hit, the average or mean velocity hit, and then you plot that on a graph, which is something that's probably more complicated than I can do. There's a lot of people, if you're good at Excel, you know how to do these things, but you take those mean velocities, each one of the loads used, and you plot it on a graph, and then that's going to give you your curve. And so but some people, like when I was using it on lifters that I felt comfortable with, we went all the way to failure, because I guess I get a true indication of what they, but you can get predictive 1RMs stopping at like 60%, so like you don't have to necessarily go all the way to the end, like like I've done in the past there. So you can also use loaded jumps. You go body weight, and then you can look at percentages of their body weight to load the jumps, and again plot the velocities on that, and kind of get an indication. And really what you're really trying to do, and this isn't research what we're doing. So what you're really trying to do is determine what action you need in your programming. So like if I did 5 kettlebell jumps, loaded jumps, and I had my body weight, and then I added 20 kilos or 20 pounds, for every jump. If I had a massive drop off that was outside the typical drop off of all the other weights, so let's say like I dropped off 1.5 inches or, every jump. And then on my 4th one, the weight got so heavy, I dropped off 2.5 inches. Well, that's clearly a deficit right there. So maybe I need a little bit more, accelerative strength, a little bit more strength speed to deal with that heavier load, and try to accelerate through it. And so I don't have as big of a drop off. Some of this stuff can just be exploratory like that. It doesn't have to be, laboratory fancy or anything like that. You got my partner in the background.
Yeah. Don't worry. We're going to make him famous.
Yeah,
Hold him up when he starts talking. We'll make him famous.
It's supposed to be bedtime. So I apologize, but you talking to? So he wants to know why you guys' heads look a lot alike. Yeah. Where's the hair? Kid. Yeah. Hey, I'm
just tell him because you think I'm pretty. That's why.
Yeah,
that's how you got that pretty wife of yours,
Yeah. Thank you.
You didn't look this good.
Let's stay on topic, Rufus. Let's stay on topic.
No, just let me go.
So there's a lot of ways to do it, and all this stuff. There's our industry is terrific because there's so much out there. And like I'm about to hold up a book right here. This was told to me. This is. You see how it's by. This book has been fantastic. So, a lot of books tell you the same, it's science, right? So like this textbook is going to tell you what that textbook does, whatever. But this particular book is so practical and to me, and I'm just, it was so well laid out that, it's a reference for me and it has been for a long time. And so it's got a lot of great stuff in it. You probably can find some other books out there, but like Aaron Cunanan, recommended this book to me years ago, and said it was one of the more practical exercise science, book for strength and conditioning coaches that he had seen. And Aaron Cunanan is a PhD and VP of sports science for the Cincinnati Reds, and former Rufus protege. So that guy should be on your list. If he's not on your list, why am I talking about technology? He's a VP of sports science. And so, so that's a book that I would pick up for sure. If I were, you asked me, where would you go to look at biomechanics? Like this is a really well laid out, book for that, but it also talks some of the physics, the curves and things like that. So I would definitely look into that. Ian Jeffries and Jeremy Moody.
Hold it up again, Ty, so you can see it.
I don't know what.
Yeah, there you go. Can you see that, Derek?
But Derek, the great thing about this.
Yes, thank you.
Book, it's just edited by them. Every chapter is done by an expert or specialist in that area. So like, for example, there's chapters Mike Stone has done, like he's not on the cover, but but Mike Stone is responsible for, a large amount of the industry research in our industry on exercise science, like in force production and for, current things like that. So, so it's, that's what I like. There's a lot of things. So I'm not getting watered down information. I'm getting information from specialists. It's well laid out.
Find it, Derek.
Yeah, I just got his name down. I was going to look it up real quick.
That's all right. Go ahead. We got another question, I think, Ty.
Oh, sorry. I'm not paying attention to that.
Oh, who's the author? Okay. We talked about Teambuilder.
Gymaware. What books? That's the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not to cut you off. I wanted to sneak in some questions while I had a chance for you, Ty. But the Teambuilder one is one that I hear the other strength coaches in the area that they use, and they just, like you said, maybe it's a cheaper cost for them. But I know one of the other strength coaches who's not necessarily like our rival, because to me they're definitely out of our league for right now because we're a lot newer with this class that we offer. But I think
you're freezing up, Derek.
that one of the features, I guess, is for your lifts, it'll plug in what you need to do for that. What about now?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay, so I'll try to shorten. It'll plug in your numbers for your lift that you're doing for that day. So it saves the kids time, and then they know what they need to be hitting. So hopefully it kind of keeps them on a better program, I guess, instead of them like trying to guess, because that's a problem that I've had for the first year or two for sure.
And then it also, you know, to your point too, like it also ensures progress, right? Because, you know, when you come in and you don't really have anything like on table, like that's been, you know, tracked, it's like, okay, you're going to you sit there and you find yourself using 65 pounds for dumbbell bench press, you know, for 3/4 of the year. And then now you've lost your training effect for, you know, a good chunk of the time. So no, that's good.
Can you, hey, Ty, on that, or Derek, can you enter in like what phase you're in? If you want to do speed strength, it'll give you that. Or how do you incorporate that with Gymaware then?
I'm sorry, Rick, say it again.
So I'm not familiar with it. I mean, I know about it, but I've never used it. So what do you do? Do you type in what phase you're in, speed strength, and it spits out numbers for you? Or
I mean, like Teambuilder has a connection to Gymaware, and so I mean, you can, and there's a note section, and then there's probably other ways to do it that I don't use it to its full capacity, but like, you know, you program the, you know, you type in the recommended velocity or zone, and then, you know, you've used Gymaware before, then you just make sure you're in that on the Gymaware, and then it shoots the velocity for each set and rep, you know, into the system as far as Teambuilder goes. You know, but you have to link, like you have to actively link the two. Like, so if you have both of those, like you have to contact, I can't remember, either Gymaware or Teambuilder or both, and get the connection made. But it's, I mean, it's helpful, like, cause then it gets logged in the system. It's like, oh, they did, you know, 220-pound trap bar at 0.88, you know, meters per second. And then, you know, 3 weeks later, they did it at 0.95, you know, and it's like, okay, well, you know, maybe we're moving in a good direction. So this guy's getting a little worse. I probably got like 10 minutes, you know, hopefully at most.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
No problem. CJ, Mark, you got a question, Mark?
Okay.
Of course, the technology that I am. Okay,
I'm gonna have a whole bunch of questions because we're gonna have a room full of Teambuilder and Gymaware, and all I've done is monkey around with Gymaware with my upcoming offensive lineman, and yeah, the dashboard's incredible. Kids love it.
Yeah,
and I saw some really good results too with just developing speed strength with them because they get the feedback. And specifically, we were doing power snatches above the knee, and I had them at 50%. We were still refining technique and stuff, and I was asking them to be over 3 meters a second at that. So almost like a ballistic thing. And after a month, I mean, they were hitting 3.5s and stuff. So we took some singles and worked up on them, and I had kids PR by 7-10 kilos, still hitting 2.7s. But at that point, the technique started to break down.
Right. So the beautiful thing about this, and I don't get $20 every time somebody drives the Gymaware or anything like that, but like, is, you know, we know from the research that intent drives adaptation. And, you know, the great thing about having something like that feedback is that, you know, everyone becomes more intentional about the efforts that you're getting. And,
absolutely. You know, like the things that you train with weightlifters, you know you're going to get a maximal attempt because they're motivated by the numbers they're doing.
Sure.
Whereas an athlete may not be so as concerned with that, but then when you start, you know, explaining to them that's, you know, hey, this is you getting your first step, this is getting out of your stance, then it gets real to them. And then when they got a number to put along with it, I really liked it. And my question is, have you used, I missed out on the part of this because I'm on Central Time and I was behind. So I was an hour behind. So I jumped in late. Have you used the Gymaware for like RSI and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, no, but it's not that it means it's not effective. Like when you're doing, you have to be careful with any ratio because the number could stay the same, but there could be movement on both sides of the fraction of the ratio, right? So like if you're doing like a mod RSI, which I think is jump height, which is done, I think factored in by takeoff velocity, in time to complete it. Like, what if both of those numbers go down at a same or similar rate? So then you're going to get a ratio that's going to be the same. And you're like, well, we didn't make any improvement. Like, actually, no, we had less jump height and a faster execution of the lift. So like what's going on? So now you got to dig deeper. So that's where when ratios, like they're really effective and really helpful. You just have to understand the ratio and know that you're probably going to have to look one layer deeper than the actual ratio number just to double check to see that the change or no change that's happening with the ratio is real. And so that's something that we track, on the force plates for, kind of like readiness and over time, because it's a time-based, metric. And, but so I got to double check that, so when we go at the end of the, when we do our jumps pregame, and the game's going on, I'm going back and look at everybody's numbers. Like, I'm like, okay, it was 0.8, but like, is that really, is that good? But it was, it was 0.8 last week too, but like, how are we getting to that 0.8? And so that's with any ratio, even if you're doing like eccentric to concentric comparison, like impulse or something like that. That's with any ratio.
So Ty, on the Gymaware, I'm sorry, Mark, on the Gymaware, what are you looking at on the Gymaware that is most important to you? I know there's like 20 or some things on Gymaware we can look at.
I mean, I'm just using it for its base purpose of, putting guys in the right, strength zone, giving them the right training stimulus. Literally that alone, like I would buy the technology just for that. Because there's, if you're getting more intent and you're getting more accurate, a more accurate training stimulus, like I don't know what else, anything else is just, it can satisfy your curiosity and it can add sophistication. But I just use it for that because our sophistication comes from the force plate jumps and looking at the force time curves and the qualitative measures of that.
But here's my question. I guess what I'm getting at is because we haven't come up with the money yet to get force plates or a Nord board or any such thing. And I'm trying to figure out, is there a way I could use the Gymaware we do have to make a poor man's force plate is what I'm getting at. Because now the football team went off and they bought Catapult. So now we're trying to put together, like a dashboard type feature for our football coaches. Try to get up to what's going on in the college levels. And I'm just trying to figure out a way to do that with the stuff I have right now or soon to have. That's going to get me in a ballpark. And
I mean, you're going to get a force time, you're going to get a curve, with the Gymaware. And you can pick, there's acceleration, and I'm not a Gymaware expert. So like, I don't want to necessarily represent them or anything like that. I think I'll just say this, and this is not a cop-out answer, but like, this is the reality. Like we're in an infancy stage with this technology that like exploring is the best thing you can do, because you're going to find 4 ways to do things that has not been talked about or put on Instagram or in some presentation or whatever. But it works for you. That's why I'm really big on like, as long as it's internally valid, meaning like, as long as it doesn't oppose like science, then like go for it, like do whatever you want. Like, cause my buddy that I referenced earlier, he's the PhD sports science, Aaron Cunana. We used to kind of,
I know Aaron. I know Aaron. Yeah.
So like Aaron, came from a lab, right, at East Tennessee State University. And so he, they're standardizing everything they're doing. And like, I don't want to standardize it. I want to know who that athlete is in that moment. So if they have more range or less range, like, then that's who they are in that moment. So I'm trying to get information or insight into the athlete so that I can make, a programming decision. he's trying to do research, so, and so when you're exploring this stuff, like as long as it's, valid and true to science, like I say, go for it. Like it doesn't have to be, like I said, like you could do like the counter movement jump, the weighted one example that I gave earlier. It's like, all I need to know is what, training stimulus I need to apply to a guy. So, I just give loaded jumps incrementally increasing, and like, oh, you have a bigger letdown at this point in time. Well, then like,
Yeah.
okay, we need to apply that training stimulus to build that up.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Adam, you got anything? Can't hear you, big guy.
You got me now?
Yep, gotcha.
I'm a little late, really late to the party. Sorry, guys. I had a student athlete parent orientation I had to present at, so I'm a little late to the party here. So, what questions? I guess not to be holding anybody back here, but I use Elite Form, and kind of like you said, I like the question Mark was talking about. I'm looking for like another way to kind of check out the pre-fatigue stage and see if they have that readiness before games. And I actually have a plyo mat, so I do vertical jump, broad jump, but I'm wondering if there's something that I could use, either like a squat jump or even just a squat jump with just even a PVC or 25-pound aluminum bar or whatever, to determine a readiness every day for a game, for soccer, pre-game, whatever.
So, I mean, you can look at, like RSI can do this. You have to just be careful that you understand the ratio. Like RFD is a very neurally driven, CNS driven, metric, but it's highly variable. So they have it comes with a large, what they call like coefficient of variation. So it's just it's very variable. But if you can establish for an athlete kind of the window of like, is a 15% decrement or gain good?
Yes.
Is that real? And that's great. But I was told by actually a couple different PhDs in sports science too, if you're going to do jumps for like a readiness, to load them a little bit, and that'll kind of stabilize. And again, I'm not a sports scientist, so I hope I'm not misspeaking, but it can stabilize some of the metrics, specifically RFD, and at least that's what I was told. And so it makes sense in the practical stuff that I've observed over the last few years. That makes sense. It's shown up to be consistent, and so I would. I think what you're doing with that 20 pounds, 25 pounds, like as long as it's meaningful enough to, for the athletes.
The consistent data. Yeah, I understand. But another question I have is, what have you seen, at least, obviously I only had 3 years of data with adolescents, which is a good amount of data, but have you seen anything from your athletes that you found is the perfect training stimulants for perfect technique and great progress for that adolescent athlete?
I mean, like pre-pubescent or post?
You're breaking up there.
Pre-pubescent or post-pubescent, Adam?
Pre.
Like, just I kind of simplify this, but velocity-based metrics and technique.
Yeah. So I'm saying, are you seeing from your data? Sorry, my phone's messing up right now.
Mhm.
Have you seen like that early stage and accelerated strength has been more of a dominant area for adolescents to be intentful, dynamic, and increase better performing technique? Or do you feel like that more mid-range, or are you seeing more the high end of their strength speed phase?
Yeah, I mean, so the bulk, and this is, I think, lines up with these like critical periods of development too, but the bulk of their training is going to be technique and velocity. So if you stay and work your way down a little bit in the string zones, work your way from fast to slow, I think you're pretty spot on. The other piece too, the thing to watch for, and I think this is just like common sense, is like once you see them slow down. So let's say you're doing like a heavy goblet squat or 2 kettlebell front squat, or I don't know whatever, like, and let's say you go to like, 20 kilos in each hand. So now we're talking like 88 pounds, like, and you see them like pause coming out of the hole, like that's too much, so now you got to stop there. And so see, that's, he agrees. And so, that was an amen that he gave. And so, because once you see a modification in technique, that's an attempt at a strategy to
Yes.
gain more force production.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Good, man.
So now
Appreciate it.
you're
Thank you
leading
very
them
much.
down the road of compensation.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Well, like I said, I've been really pushing, obviously, that strength speed, that early acceleration, strength phase. And obviously that's our staple of our program. And that's where I've seen the biggest jump on our kid, just from just the intent in general, so I just wanted to get some backup from somebody who probably has a little more experience working with technology than I have. And like I say, again, man, I'm just going off 3 years. So I've gained a lot of knowledge in 3 years, but again, I'm always trying to learn and try to get better and see what's kind of almost like a game changer for my kids. And obviously technique's the game changer. Let's be honest, at that age. But what's that next step that we can really kind of change the game a little bit in a high school setting, utilizing the tool, so.
And Adam, obviously technique is the name of the game. At some point, just if I'm being real and just like the kind of the rules of force production and power, technique is sacrificed a little bit to gain more force, things like that. And so adaptation is a volume game. And so it's, this is just my opinion. It's okay to have moments that maybe are less than ideal from a technique, if the adaptation you're striving for is the one you're getting, which, like, maybe this case it's heavy force production.
Yes, you got to load the cannon before it go off.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, well, you're right.
The only thing I would kind of it's like, okay, how much time, depending on the athlete and the sport they play and the demands of their sports, like, again, we come back to volume drives adaptation. Like, if you're doing that a minimal amount in your program, it's fine. And you get a big, you probably get a nice little CNS jump from it and things like that.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that 60% of the time and you're driving those compensatory patterns, now, how much, how much good versus harm are you doing? So I'm probably, I apologize, guys. This is probably my alarm clock's going off right here.
Oh, you're good, man. I appreciate your honesty, man. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, get my, listen, I love this stuff and I love this niche of our industry. So, I don't know, get my information from Rufus. I apologize. I had to cut this short. But I'm happy to answer and even come back and jump on a call that's maybe at a better time, instead of this guy's bedtime.
No, you're fine, man. Appreciate you answering some questions and sorry for being late.
But seriously, I mean, I feel bad. I enjoy this stuff. So again, if you want to email any questions, please do. And you can get that.
Thank you, Ty.
And so
Thanks, Ty. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man.
good to see
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions you want to talk about?
No, there's just we're going through one of those periods right now. There's just there's a lot out there getting done, and everybody's kind of in the same situation. I'm watching the stuff from all over the collegiate level, and basically everybody's still trying to figure it out. There are some teams I think they're a little bit ahead. I think like Jake Flint at LSU's ahead. I think Texas is ahead. It's just crazy the level that they've gotten to, but they've got people that are just specifically working on all this stuff. There's a lot of good stuff going on out there.
Well, it makes it hard for us because we have to do all of it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the colleges right now are sprinting ahead, and at the high school level, to try to have people ready for what they're doing. We're just doing what we do, and now we're trying to have to play this real catch-up game because the colleges are sprinting ahead. They're in an arms race,
and I think that's fine. It's in my mind, and you guys can disagree with me, but it's how do I prepare my guys for the colleges, right?
Yes, and we can't lose sight of the fact of this. our fundamentals we just have to produce good fundamentals.
Well, and that's the important
it.
thing. Ty hit on that when he was talking to you, Adam,
Yeah.
about
Compensations. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's in the beginning, it's all about speed and technique, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And
Do it right, do it fast, do it heavy, Roof.
you know better than that. And you know, and if you get that, because you know, I talk to CJ Stockel all the time. Adam, this is CJ Stockel, and
Okay.
CJ's in Georgia, and he coaches middle school kids. And I've told him 1,000 times, you got the most important job of the whole organization, because
100%.
he's preparing his guys for the high school, right?
Exactly.
And so
It makes our job easier.
Oh yeah. You know, if I you know, well, are you in charge of the middle school and the high school program too?
Yeah. So I program the middle school, but I have 2 APC teachers that teach it and run my program there. And I run stuff after school, obviously in the wintertime, in the spring, and get
Right.
those kids over with me. So I get my hands on, build relationships, you know. But yeah, I understand. You know, that's a huge deal to have somebody who wants to learn from us to implement our program at the middle school. So then they can be more comfortable and progress a little faster when they get to high school. You know that.
Yeah. I'm gonna hang on just a minute. Go ahead and talk. I'm gonna get a book to show you.
Adam, where are you from?
I'm from Vincennes, Indiana, but I went to University of Indianapolis here in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I'm at Decatur Central High School right now.
Decatur Central. Okay.
CJ, he's a dude. He's a dude. Coach
Far
Wayne
from
got it going on,
far
man.
from you guys though. Far from you guys though. I'm far from you guys, man.
That's not true. That is not true at all. That's not true.
Well, you made that comment, Mark, about the college coaches. So I was at the Hammerstone Clinic past weekend, and you're right. And the college guys have endless amounts of budget, endless amount of technology. Like if you would have saw the Virginia's football strength coach, Adam Smotherman, I think it is.
Yeah.
And then Coach G, who's the head basketball coach at Tennessee, like their dashboard and what they can track from. I mean, it's just crazy what they track. And then the funny thing is, Coach Adam was saying that he's like, you know, I asked my guys to be the best in everything they do. So he's like, the guys that run the catapult, you got to be the best in the country at running catapult. The guys that run the VBT, you got to be the best in the country to run the VBT. Like, we got to do all that, you know? So it's tough for us to add in all this technology because, again, we're just high school guys making some money and they're making big time 6 figures. You know that. So
have you guys seen this book?
Oh yeah. Oh, come on.
I'm on Mark and CJ.
Come on. That was on the Rufus reading list.
Oh yeah. This is a great book, Adam.
I can't see the book, Rufus. What is it?
It's called Children and Sports Training.
The
Gotcha.
Polish dude.
It's by a guy named, can you see that name?
Drobic. Yeah, Drobic.
Can you see that name, Drobic?
Oh, no, I can't. No, I can't see anything on my screen right now.
I got it, Adam. I got
it. Okay, good. Good. Okay. I can only hear you guys.
So now, yeah, I think you have to establish your own norms, but it's got some guidelines in here where it talks about the sensitive periods. And Ty talked a little bit about the sensitive periods. And so from, I think it's like 8 to 14 for boys, for 15 is the sensitive period for speed. And if you go back to so that's when the best time to work on speed, and that's sprinting speed and movement, you know, and things like that. So what you said, you know, I think you're right on about it. I'll get a link to it here and I'll put it in the comments or in the chat in just a minute. But it's a really good book that you should read. It's an easy read. It's not very big. It's a couple of 100 pages.
No, I'm fine. I'm always interested in new books to read, man.
Yeah, so
especially if it relates directly to my kids, 100%. You know that.
Yeah, and so so it's a really good book. that
Good.
it's kind of it's
Yeah,
so
but,
when
you know,
I
but
was IFAST,
keep
we
in
used to
mind.
use it. That was kind of our Bible at IFAST for training kids.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
was
know,
it?
but
Okay.
you gotta keep in mind a lot of those people overthink training kids too. You know, like they say kids can't do plyometrics, and I literally watched my own kid climb on top of like a 4 and 5 foot thing and jump off for an hour straight. I mean, the volumes the volumes had to be off the charts.
Yeah.
And it
Oh,
was
yeah.
just kids
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
You know, and if it's, I think literally when it hits the point that they don't want to do it anymore, they'll stop doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
And if you got a sports scientist sitting there, they would have stopped him after after 10 jumps or something.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
too much loading. Like,
Yeah.
shut up. No. So
I hear you.
let kids play. That's
Yeah.
gracious.
Yeah.
I think
well,
that's the.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, Mark's right, man. Like when I train my middle school kids, yeah, we want to train movement patterns and stuff, but I just try to throw in as many games as possible to make them competitive. Like let them. I don't count like in big time volume. Well, we're only going to do 8 of these figure drills. I'm just like, here, we got 10 minutes. Let's do these drills. Let's have fun, compete, see what happens. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the best way to do it. Let them. Yeah, we overthink stuff like that, and we start overthinking, and you take the competition, the fun out of it sometimes. You know.
And I think everyone's volume tolerance is higher if they're having fun. Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey,
Good.
Grant,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. Have any of y'all ever done I don't want to say a vertical jump, but basically is, we teach the lifts and people say jump, shrug, pull, whatever. Has anybody done like a snatch, grip, and then just done a vertical jump with that bar?
Yes.
Yeah, I know Rufus has.
And what'd you get out of it? I did it today with one of my athletes, probably the best athlete I got in 7th grade. I just looked at it and thought, hey, let's try something different. And what did you get out of it?
I like it. It's like 10% of body weight though.
Well,
So,
you remember Swords? You remember Tim Swords used to go over to Russia every year.
yeah.
And he said that the Russians had the young lifters doing a bunch of jumps.
Yep.
I would hit up Swords because he talked to, I think he was in St. Petersburg, and I forget the name of the Russian coach he was with, but he questioned him pretty much at length on that. I would hit him up on that.
Okay.
It's actually an exercise in the Russian manuals. One of the exercises in the Russian manuals.
What they
I
call
see one of
snatch jumps?
No, it's called vertical jump with a snatch grip or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's in the one with all the exercises in it. And
that is very interesting. That's a really
yeah,
good
I've
idea.
done. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would like to see it like
I don't do it with less than or more than 10% of their body weight though, especially the younger kids.
Here's one of the ideas that I'm tossing around is Zaziorski and Kramer did a thing where they measured the ground force application time on a bunch of different things, from sprinting to throwing a shot put to whatever, and it all came out about the same. It was like 0.10 to 0.2, so the very short application window, and combine that with like Will Fleming's been pushing the muscle snatch as a test for readiness. And my question has always been, the muscle snatch, that force application window is longer because you pull on the bar longer.
Yeah.
So my question is that really relative and then my question is, how long does it take to get to peak velocity? Because a lot of times that muscle snatch really takes off. So your peak velocity's at the top once the lift is over. So I don't know that's really a good indication of that peak velocity in a muscle snatch is really a good indication of readiness. I'm not sure. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just not convinced of it. I think, like the power snatch, it's and all that, it's got to fit in that window of that sports performance area that we're talking about, from 0.10 to 0.20 ground force application time. understand what I'm saying? So I think that snatch grip jump could be something that would work on that for a test for readiness without sans force plate like all the college guys are using. Which, have you seen what all that stuff cost? It's just crazy. It just costs so much.
It's quite pricey for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
If you got time to do all that stuff too, as well, that's the thing. Is like it's a lot of numbers to look at for a lot of different athletes, a lot of different programs.
Yeah. Talking with the college guys, they test everybody about once a week.
Yeah.
Like the whole team. But they'll test, like they'll hand pick 15 that are like canaries in the mine shaft. It's daily. Those like really highly explosive guys that with no work capacity. And then they call them the inefficient movers. Like the guy that'll run a 5-yard route and expend as much energy as someone running a mile. Which they just refer to as inefficient movers. They got a lot of crap going in the wrong direction at the time.
Yeah.
When we talked to Drake from Hawken Dynamics with the force plates, he will tell you don't test everybody on the team every day.
Well, that's what I said. He chose the 15.
Yeah. And so to use the force plates, I've used them and they go really quickly.
Yeah, my college guys, they swear like that's the number one tool. Even above BBT, as they say, the force plate tells you more.
Yeah. And but the if you're doing like say you're doing the first 22 guys on your football team, let's say, you can do it in like 5 minutes, or it doesn't take any time at all to do. And because the numbers come up really quickly and he says even the kids, the kids at the school just do it themselves, and it's real simple to operate. All they got to do is put in their name and it comes up and stuff like that. And the application of it, doing it every day is not bad, and you don't have to do it with 100 guys every day either.
Yes.
You can do a basketball team every day because there's only 12, 15 guys, something like that.
Yeah.
And,
hey, he was talking about the guy from the basketball guy from Tennessee, and that's Garrett Medenwald. He's a Wisconsin Whitewater guy. He's been to the house here, Roof.
Yeah,
he stayed in my basement.
Yeah,
he wasn't with
he.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying. Yeah, he had a great presentation, man. He was talking about the why and how to answer. He's like, how do you answer the question from the coach? And he had all kinds of data from his force plates and how he tested stuff through practice and plays in practice, and and they used obviously Catapult as well. And he had an unbelievable dashboard, man, of what he tracked and how he tracked that. And
is he a smart base? Is he a smart base guy? Like his dashboard, do you remember?
I can't remember exactly. All I know is his dashboard would look clean as shit, like look great, as in just the presentation side of it. So he had everything located, like from practice intensity to quarter intensity to game intensity of how he could recommend like conditioning for his guys. I'm not sure exactly where he got the dashboard created or whatever. Actually, you know what? I'll have to look back at my notes. The guy used to be at Butler, I think. He's a doctor, a professor, used to be at Butler, and he hired him on his staff down there.
Huh.
So he runs the dashboard part for him down there at Tennessee. But again, he had like 3 or 4 guys on his staff. So, but he was testing. It seemed like he was testing everything those guys were doing every day. Now, he did say they only use the force plates readiness once a week, same day, same time. He did say that. So.
Well, yeah, I like that. Now, if you watch them, I mean, Tennessee is probably the most physical basketball team in the NCAA. To the point, they just bully people.
Yeah, he was he showed some good stuff, man, on how they track certain things. I'll have to share the presentation once I get it all from Hammer Strength or whatever. But the details he went into and on how he answered certain questions, he was talking about. Really, his presentation was on answering questions with stories or situations with the players and facts. Don't ever assume anything. It always should be a story about the player and a fact of the coach. So he's talking about, scenario A, why is he out of shape? Well, he was kind of going through scenario A and B of why that player was out of shape or why he actually wasn't out of shape. It was that he had certain stresses here that were, he was going through all kinds of different data for it. And I was like, shit, man, how the fuck do you have time to look at all this stuff? And he was talking about like his practice data on his intensity. They were talking about one guy.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting, they're doing like the halos, and they've got their sleep monitored, and then
oh my god,
yeah. And I mean, the next step is they're going to be like measuring like blood sugars and blood lipids and stuff like that.
Oh god, yeah, 100%.
And at a certain point, they're going to be, I'm sure they're going to figure out a way. They're going to be testing testosterone and cortisol levels and things like that. All that stuff that weightlifting is done years ago, but had to be done on a 5 guys at a time basis.
It wouldn't put me. I wouldn't surprise me if somebody doing that right now. They're just not talking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think if that is the case, and I think you're probably right, I'm going to guess it's LSU or Texas. They're about as on top of things as anybody that I've seen.
It doesn't put me. It sounds like something Clint would do, probably, right?
Well, Texas, they run their sports science through the hospital even. Yeah, it's not even a strength coach. They're part of the strength staff, I guess, but they're actually paid through the hospital and things.
Oh, wow.
It's a girl. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, that's cool. Yeah. But again, you never heard of that yet being done. So I wonder what they are doing. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
but wouldn't surprise me. You're right.
They're all saying without saying because they're eyeing national championships and things. So they're talking without talking.
Yeah.
if I get a serious question to Jake Flint, he'll just like, well, I'll call you. He'll call and talk, but he's not going to put anything in a text or something like that could be shared.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Let me ask you guys a question. Is there a class in the high school that you could run your sports science stuff through?
Yeah, statistician class. There's schools in Chicago doing that already.
That's what Stan and Spencer, I believe, did with when they got the perch.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They get the money. Part of the money comes through like STEM.
Yeah.
And so they run their statistical analysis and the physics classes are involved in it and things like that.
That's a great idea.
I'm just wondering if you couldn't that would take some of the load off of you. By having them analyze it and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, luckily I have a dashboard. Guys kind of create a dashboard for me so I can put my numbers in, and they kind of put together all my graph stuff like that and the progress for the kids and the pro teams, so I can give that individual information out to the team coach, obviously the individual player, and even be able to present that to the parent. And that's actually the next step that I'm trying to do with our dashboard, is be able to have it monthly presentation information emailed to the parents so they can see their son and daughter's immediate progress and yearly and semester and weekly, monthly, whatever it is.
There you go. There you go.
So hopefully it covers my ass,
Yeah, absolutely. If you, especially like the year or the longer they're in from like start to finish, so they can see the upward trend. Because
I would like to do that in 8th grade too, like 7th and 8th grade APC. Add them into that same program,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we test a vertical jump in 7th grade or a broad jump on RSI, and they can see that progress all the way through their senior year. You know,
How do
So,
you test your RSI, Ed?
I do. I don't use Elite Foam. I use Plyomat, Richard Burnett's technology. So
Okay.
I use the 5'10". I do the 5'10", 10 jumps, and it averages.
Yeah.
It takes the average of the best 5.
Best 5, yeah.
Yeah, an average of that. I like it. It's more accurate. Obviously, it's more sensitive. The grid's more sensitive, the matting and stuff like that. So I really like it because also now I can see contact time and jump height with it. So then,
It's always my question with RSI is, all right, even if you have them do 10 jumps, how the hell you're getting good jumps out of kids? Yeah.
you're not,
Like,
you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like, if testing for readiness, all right, well, that's still dependent upon the kid.
Exactly. 100%. 100%. The only way I can say is that if it works for me is that here's their numbers. It's right in front of your face. Here's your motivation. Do you want to get better today? You know what I'm
It's
saying?
almost like you'd have to do it like in a ranking system, so you're getting a
Yeah.
good something out of them.
Well, the Hawken Dynamics force plates,
Yeah.
they have a thing on there where you can rank athlete to athlete.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Yeah.
like Teambuilder and all that stuff, the Gymaware, even they'll build leaderboards.
yeah, but this one you can take like a basketball player versus a football player, and you take all their numbers that you've accumulated, and it ranks them in order of who's
Yeah.
the athlete.
Yeah, yeah.
Coming overall, yeah.
Yeah, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.